Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality, and we're so glad you're here. This is a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we greatly appreciate your support. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe to any of the social media content platforms that you're using. And then if you go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, you can make a one-time donation, or with a monthly subscription, you'll gain access to our bonus content. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We're glad you're joining us today on this episode, and we're excited to introduce to you Jordan Taylor Thompson.
Hey guys.
Thanks for being on Spirituality Adventures, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, man.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. I did an interview with Jordan's brother, Jake Wells, which is Jake Wells Thompson. I'm all just learning this. So like when I was interviewing your brother Jake, I didn't know who Jay Taylor was, which is the name that you do your music under. And all of his co-writes were like Jay Taylor, you know, and I'm like going, who's this Jay Taylor guy? And so then it was just fun to be able to hang with you a little bit and meet you at the coffee shop. And, so yeah, thanks for coming on board. So everybody who may have heard the Jake Wells interview that I did, this is Jake's older brother, Jordan.
Yep.
And so let's jump in a little bit. Tell us about your where you grew up, your family background, okay. And kind of I want to hear it from the oldest. By the way, you have 4 other siblings, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm the oldest. I have a sister right under me. Then's Jake, another brother Joshua, and then youngest sister Brooke. Right. So there's 5 of us. Yeah, I mean, I guess Jake probably went into it a little bit in your guys' conversation, but yeah, you want to just start with growing up?
I'm the oldest brother in my family, so you know you got to hear it from the oldest, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, to get the one true perspective. You know?
Exactly.
There's it's like there are no domains or contexts that are ultimate until you get to an oldest sibling, and then it's like this is the ultimate. My
sister would tell a story. I said, wait a minute, that's not how it went down.
Oh man, yeah, I remember. That reminds me of a story that I'm going to go into real quick because I had this realization. So I remember I had a mushroom trip maybe like a year and a half ago where I was looking at what is evil, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm like, so, and I'm looking at myself, you know, I'm like, okay, what is evil? And I had this memory show up of laying in bed, and I had the top bunk, Jake and Josh had the bottom bunk. And we had this fan that had like 2 missing blades on the ceiling, okay. Right? And we weren't allowed to turn it on for this reason, because it's like off balance and it's gonna, you know, it's gonna whatever. So we weren't allowed to turn the fan on. But I decided that tonight's the night I'm gonna turn the fan on. So I just turned the fan on. Dad comes in because he hears it. Who turned the fan on? You know, nobody answers. You know, he asks, he's like, Jordan, did you turn the fan on? I'm like, nope. Jake, did you turn the fan on? Jake's like, no. Josh, did you turn the fan on? No. Starts again with me. Jordan, did you turn the fan on? No. So I keep this up for long enough that Jake, who's, probably 4, 3 or 4 at the time. Josh is probably, 2 or something like that.
And how much older are you?
I'm 2.5 years, 3 years older than Jake.
Okay.
So, I got him by a couple of years. That's it. But I remember basically lying to my dad enough times that Jake started to question his own story. And so eventually Jake ends up taking the blame for, turning this fan on. And I remembered realizing like, oh, I stuck with it long enough that somebody else, just kind of laid down and took it. Right. But more than that, fundamentally, I twisted reality for a group of people. And so as I was sitting in I'm like a 29-year-old dude sitting in this mushroom trip looking for evil. And I realized like, oh, when I twisted the truth for these people, this is
becomes the new reality.
It becomes their new reality. And that's the core. To me, that was the core of evil. I was like, oh, that's pretty much as bad as it gets, is when you change what you know to be so for other people. And in that way, I think it's the story of the oldest that, becomes true. Basically, to circle back around to what you're saying.
Going back to yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in that moment, I was like, I created something. I created the truth in that moment.
Yeah,
as the
I
oldest.
hear you. When you said going back to the oldest, I even was thinking back to the garden.
Oh, no. We don't have to go to the garden. Yeah, we can go to the garden later.
Where did all this twisting start?
No. What I'm saying is like, we're talking about the oldest, the story from the oldest is the story.
So the oldest brothers are the direct descendant of the serpent in the garden. No,
basically. No, I think, basically it's someone has to, if we're all animating all of these different like archetypes or something, the oldest sibling, there's something, usually there's something going on.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
And part of it might be, just the fact that you have your parents to yourself for a couple of years, and it's like,
yeah. And I had them for 5.
Yeah. You're the center of the world.
Right. And then all of a sudden my sister came along.
Yeah.
And they put a big curl on her head.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually crawled up into her crib, or I was old enough not to crawl up into it. I got into her crib and cut it off.
Cut it off. Yeah.
A pair of scissors.
Oh, that's too good. That's too good. Yeah. There's like good shadow shit that can happen.
I've been having to think about that for a while now.
Yeah. You're like, wow.
So, yeah. Crazy. Well, all right. So where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Northwest Florida. So in the panhandle of Florida. My parents met at a Pensacola Christian college, just super conservative, type of college down there. So they were kind of in that conservative fundamentalist world, just from their families, and so met at college. My dad and mom were both on staff at the college. And so I was born, a couple years after they got married. So
is that where they met at?
Yeah, they met at the college? Yeah.
And this is like a fundamental Baptist college, is that right?
Yeah, it's fundamentalist. I guess it's like a Bible college, technically speaking. That would be their word for it. But I mean, it would fit in line with like an independent Baptist type of line of philosophical thinking. Yeah. So and they have a big like Christian school and publishing company there. So my dad worked for the publishing company, worked for the college. I was born kind of into that, and I was 1.5 when my sister was born, so I don't remember much, any much life before having siblings. So, but there were 5 of us in 7 years, and so we were all kind of born back to back to back, right in that kind of environment. So, dad working for the college, mom stay-at-home mom, us going to school, type of thing. Yeah, and that was in Pensacola. Then, when I was 7. Or I guess 6, about to be 7, my mom had a really complicated pregnancy with my youngest sister. And it kind of sent my dad into this, he just had kind of a mental health reckoning, I guess, at that point. And we moved from Pensacola to a town called Niceville, which is where my grandfather, my mom's dad, was a pastor. And so... Is
this in Florida?
It's in Florida, okay. Niceville, Florida. Yeah, exactly. Wow. So... Niceville. So from when I was 7 till I was 10, we lived in Niceville. My dad was like the assistant pastor there. He was kind of, to give a little bit of backstory, I guess, so this kind of bigger school that he was working for, it's like, 3,500 students, and he's kind of juggling a lot in terms of, being involved there. And then has kind of a little bit of a breakdown. It starts experiencing this anxiety and panic attacks and stuff like that. And so he needed to take a step back. So we go to like Niceville, Florida, where the entire congregation is like 250 people on a Easter Sunday. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Take a step back to kind of a little bit more of a country church vibe. A little bit slower pace, and that's my grandfather's setup. So so we moved those environments. From 7 to 10 we were there. And then a big part of that.
Were you being homeschooled?
Yeah. So
Okay.
we were homeschooled. I was homeschooled after midway through like second grade.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was homeschooled almost the whole run. I got, I learned to read and count and write and stuff in school, and then ended up at home, which worked really well for me.
Okay.
Which was really good for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so moved there. We all start homeschooling slowly as everybody enters school age. And there's a thing in that world where you'll have like a revival geared week-long set of services that a traveling minister comes in and like delivers their week of content, if you will. And there are people who their living is like being kind of the mobile evangelist, type person.
Right.
And so we had several of those who would come through on a yearly basis to that church where my dad was to my grandfather's church where my dad was the assistant pastor. And I think something about that kind of inspired my dad. And so when I was 10, he kind of announced told us, he was like, hey, your mom and I, what we believe, the Lord is telling us to do is to kind of go on the road and, sing songs, and I'll preach and this type of thing. So, to that point, my dad's very musical, mom's musical as well. Mom is kind of a songwriter, dad's a songwriter as well. We had been working out this kind of this family routine, this family singing routine, at a nursing home. Every Wednesday, we'd go to the nursing home. We'd sing. The kids,
whole family.
The kids would sing. Whole family. Yeah,
Okay.
we'd roll up before. So we had Wednesday night church too, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night church. But before Wednesday night church, we would go sing at the nursing home. My dad would speak, and then we'd roll out to regular church and maybe sing and do the same thing, And so we were going to take that routine kind of on the road. That's what was being announced when I was 10. And so my parents, we sold the house, bought a 44-foot Eagle bus, like this old school kind of highway cruiser Eagle bus. It had it was super...
Is it like an RV thing or
no? So it's like a tour bus. Yeah. So I mean, similar to an RV, but they're a class apart. They're kind of different.
It's got a bathroom, and that's about it.
It's got a bathroom. It had 5 bunks. It had a kind of back lounge area with a disco ball.
Okay.
It had, it's got the kind of front section where the driver sits, that was my dad was driving down there, and then a main kind of living area, bathroom, shower. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it's this huge, 44-foot bus.
So 7 of you hit the road.
Yeah, we hit the road, seven people in this bus. And so we would travel around from church to church, just contacts that my dad would have, or word of mouth, whatever.
Yeah.
And we'd do this routine, we'd get up there, sing. Some of it would be songs my parents wrote. Some of it would be songs that were just common Southern gospel songs, or just songs that we liked or knew, And so we did that in churches all over the country for 6 years.
6 years. How many states do you think you hit in 6 years? I'm just curious.
That's a great question, and I could probably ask my dad, and he could probably figure it out. But it's at least half. It's at least half of them. Half of them having gigs, in this, not counting traveling through.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we never went to Hawaii. We were really hoping we get to go to Hawaii. We never went to Hawaii. Never went to Alaska. So we stayed continental U.S. But we also didn't do, the Montana, Dakotas.
Okay.
I don't think Washington or Oregon ever. So, that area, but the whole East Coast, all the Midwest, and then a lot of the Southwest too.
Okay.
So,
and all the South as well.
Yeah. The South was just where we were almost all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So spent 6 years doing that.
So was your dad the only one that did any speaking?
Yeah, my dad was the only one speaking, and that was pretty common for that world.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I guess I didn't go into it too much, but it's like, I don't know of any, besides maybe like German Mennonite or Amish people, I don't really know anyone at the level of, conservatism that we were in. So even all the churches that we were going to were part of this kind of elite, if you will, group of people who were like, yeah, we tolerate the very least, type of stuff, like, for example, the first time I ever went to a movie theater, I was 15, saw the movie Cars. That was the first movie I ever saw in theaters, and I had never been in a theater before. And that was like a big moment.
This was like a Pixar movie, right?
Pixar movie, Cars. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like a kid's movie, and excuse me.
That's the first time.
Yeah, that was the first time because you just don't go to movies, Okay. That's like not, and I don't remember exactly why, but some of it's like, nobody knows why you're going, like, who knows what movie you're going to see. You could, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but there's, just say like a limited access to agency in that kind of realm. So
I didn't grow up that strict, even though I grew up in a Baptist home. Like, my parents took me to drive-in movies, and like I can remember, like we would, it wasn't like they were very. I remember seeing Billy Jack in the drive-in theater, which was an independent film. It's a guy that was on an Indian reservation and basically knew karate and used his karate for social justice ends. Like to try to eliminate discrimination of Native Americans. And I thought he was the coolest guy on the planet. And it's crazy because it's like, I think to this day, adjusted for, inflation and stuff, it's still the number one grossing independent film of all time in America.
Really?
Called Billy Jack.
Billy Jack.
I have it in my video collection if you ever want to watch it.
Anyway, I'll definitely watch it. I'm sure I could stream it somewhere too.
It'll feel cheesy to you, but
sure. Yeah, I mean,
the soundtrack I loved, the theme of social justice and all this with, I don't know, anyway, but but it's got some very adult scenes in it. That's why I was like really young, and like I remembered, like there's a nudity scene in it. Yeah, and I was like, wow, this is great.
Yeah, exactly. What is this feeling? Yeah, man. No,
Let's go to the drive-in more often. No,
exactly.
Anyway.
I don't know what it is, but there's something about that place. Yeah, exactly.
And then I know some people who just like thought movies probably would corrupt people, but then others I knew that. Like you couldn't go to a movie on Sunday. Only on Sunday could you not go to a movie. But I mean, even when I was growing up, like I would do movie clips sometimes with my messages in church.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would show clips from R-rated movies.
Ooh.
Like Gladiator or, I can, Fight Club or or Matrix or something. Whoa. Some of my favorites.
Okay, dang.
And, sometimes I'd get a little kickback like, you just showed a clip from an R-rated movie. I'm like, yeah, well, it's a great movie,
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
But I understand, that whole,
totally. Well,
that whole environment.
Yeah, totally. It's like, if the underlying concern is that, the kind of aperture, like what is taking in sensation can be distorted by what it's taking in. If that's the underlying concern, I would say, yeah, I agree. Like, I agree that this thing can be this thing can get kind of out of whack in terms of stimulation. You can overstimulate yourself, but that being said, I can't even fathom telling someone whether or not they can go see a movie, at this point in my development.
Yeah, I hear you. So you guys did this for 6 years, and then you stopped traveling. You were still singing, but
So after 6 years, basically, myself, my sister, who's directly younger than me, we were super over it. Like, just kind of begging to get off the road. So this was, and I was 15, 16 when this was happening. So it's like very, very important years in terms of like just I wanted to be with my friends, just really wanted to be with my friends, and notice that, we might be in Florida, where we called home, a couple of weeks out of the year. And it's like, I get to hang out with my friends again. But every time I come back, there's a little more life that's been lived. I'm not there. Mm-hmm. I'm not part of the group. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that was like, man, I really want to have that experience, Right? So my sister felt the same way. I think Jake probably felt the same way, similarly to to us, although I don't think he was at the point where he would be expressing it as much, but we were just expressing this like, please, can we get off the road? And so at the same time, my parents were or all of us really were going through this kind of leaving the fundamentalist part of what we were in, mm-hmm. So it's like, and when I use that word, I just mean the idea that this one true way, and not only one true way, like in the sense of the religion, but the one true way in the sense of the the minute interpretations of the religion, It's like that was where we were. It was like, this is fun. You're supposed to be this way. It's exactly like this. And I think we were all just growing out of that.
Yeah, like how you interpret the Bible. There's certain ways, like this is the right way to interpret the Bible.
Yeah, this particular version, even like if someone uses not this version, then you are opening yourself up to,
like literally like King James only sometimes. And
well, exactly that. Yeah, they were King James only, the 1611 King James only type thing.
So if there's a new translation done by great Greek and Hebrew scholars, that could be suspect.
Well, yeah, it's totally suspect because I guess the idea, well, this,
these are, so let's do this.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause we know where we're going with this.
We can go in wherever we want, but
the song that caught my attention when I interviewed Jake was Born Again. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't realize, then Jake was like, this is Jordan's song. You need mm-hmm. to interview Jordan. So and when we met and had coffee, okay, you used an analogy that I've thought about it multiple times now. And you described like growing up in this fundamental culture mm-hmm. as like you use the Jenga game.
Oh yeah,
you remember when you said that to me?
Yeah,
and you said it's kind of like if you move anything just a little bit, the whole thing can come falling down.
Yeah, totally. It's like you can't play with it very long before that inevitable
it just
crash
topples.
Happens. Yeah.
And so like let's talk a little, like what are some of those things in the fundamental culture from your experience that you, if you played with it, it just topples. I mean, let's just say that one would be just one among many, right? The King James only.
Totally. Yeah. The King James only, like at an intellectual level, I had questions about even as a teenager, because I was thinking about, I was in foreign language classes and I was thinking about how, for example, I was taking Spanish and I thought, it's so interesting how there's really a different order that the language is happening in, like even the thoughts, someone thinking in Spanish, like having a narrative thought in Spanish, someone having a narrative thought in English, is even thinking certain parts of these in a way that has them land differently. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought, looking at Spanish when I was at that, mm-hmm. at that age. And I thought, man, there's really no way. It's like, really, if you really believe that there's only one possible, like God-breathed, inspired version, quote unquote, of the, of this collection of works over many hundreds of years of writing.
Yeah.
If you really believe that,
over 1,000 years. Yeah.
Yeah. You would need to be able to read the original languages for sure. Mm-hmm. You would have to be able to read the original languages mm-hmm. if you thought that. And if you think that it could somehow migrate over to another language, in a lossless format. And we're not even talking about culture. We're just talking about literally language, the
literally
words.
just translating a passage from Hebrew to English.
Yeah, exactly. Just translating from Hebrew to English. And that at this one point in the 17th century, it was prime for that happening.
Right.
And
1611, King James English, same stuff that Shakespeare was using,
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, for me, that started to fall apart just at an intellectual level. And you ask a question like, how do you know? And it's like, well, if we don't know this, what do we know? And it's like, that's a logical fallacy, it doesn't stand up. And I think wired to kind of be a truth seeker. I like put a lot of value on the domain of truth. And so, stuff like that just isn't good enough, for me personally.
Were there other things that stood out? I mean, you don't have to name them all, but just
there's one big experience that I'll share.
Yeah. Okay.
The big experience that I'll share is, gosh, it's going to be hard to articulate this really well, but so in that culture, being gay was certainly way off the table, like way off the deep end. Like, you are just so wrong. You know what I mean? If you're experiencing life from that perspective. Okay. And most of the time, it's not like talked about all the time. You know what I mean? It's not like a constant, like every Sunday you go in and it's this like
a homophobic rants or something like that. Yeah.
But every now and again you do get that. And so I was sitting in this like tent revival atmosphere. It wasn't a tent, but it was, this tent revival preacher type guy. Very like his way of marketing himself was like the world's most controversial evangelist or something like this, right? So this guy is just hellfire and brimstone, like say the craziest things, would literally just scare the shit out of you if you're a kid. You're sitting there as like a 5-year-old and he's like screaming and spitting and like losing his mind, just like going on about
you're slipping into the fire.
How exactly you're like, oh my God, I said that prayer like 3 times, but I didn't understand it the way I understand it now, man. Did I get it right? And so I'm sitting there and this guy is literally suggesting that, if culture was as it should be, then like gay people would be publicly executed type stuff. Literally, he's saying this, and the whole room is like, going for it, freaking out, going for it, so to give like it's hard to articulate that in a way that is even comprehensible as to the emotional experience of that.
Wow.
And so what happened for me in that experience is I woke up like having my emotional state follow the room, total agreement, total like self-righteousness, and the experience of like, we know the right way. I was having that experience with the room, like as I think a lot of people in the room were having, and my wake up moment came in the middle of that, where I was just like, this is like, whoa, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? I watched myself have that like
the record scratches or
the
something.
Record scratched and it would, but the thing is that like, it's hard to explain how, well, like when the record scratches and you've listened to 1,000 records, and you've spent a lot of times not listening to records, and that the record is scratching. At that point in my life, though, I only know the record. Like I'm only in environments like this. I only know people who go to environments like this. I've been kind of conditioned to not associate myself with, like, it's virtuous to not associate myself with people who exist outside of that environment.
Yeah.
So that this record scratch was like more of like I don't really know. I don't know what's going on, but something's off here, you know, for me, something's off here. And so we go home that night and I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, I don't think I can do this. You know, I don't think I could stay here. You know, we gotta.
And how old are you?
15.
Okay.
Yeah. 14, 15, somewhere in there. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. And, you know, I think I sensed where he was in saying that, because if I had said that at a time when he was like, really steeped in that, then that would have been really far out of bounds for me to say that. But I think at this point I just sensed like, I can say this. I said that and he's like, I know, buddy. Like, I know we're finding a way out, you know, and this is highly complex given that this is my grandfather's church. This is, you know, this is my us leaving this is us, leaving aspects of our family, you know, behind, you know, because you don't just go to a new, you know, you don't just go to a new thing from something like that.
Yeah. We'll shop at Hy-Vee instead of.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's not like that. Nobody is like that. And like, you know, you grow up kind of like, or for me, I grew up watching people do like, I don't know if you've heard of church discipline, the concept, but it's like we would do things, you know, we would have like this meeting, the whole entire church is there, and like not only air someone's dirty laundry, like in a way that is not honoring to them, but also kind of instructing the congregation, like, and until they publicly apologize for this, we are not associating. If you see them in public, you're to avoid them. You're not to be in a conversation with them. Like, cut people off. You know what I mean? Cut them off.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying, man? And it's like, so this is, I only say that to say like, that's kind of like when you have when you're like, we got to leave, it's like, this is a complicated situation because we're leaving, you know, by sociological definitions, a cult, you know? So, yeah, that was like a big record scratch moment. You can even have, guilt associated with the leaving, even, I think, you know, I've talked to a lot of people, if they go through something like that, where they feel like they're leaving something that, you know, where their whole social world has been planted in, and then you like, no, that's not where I want to leave any. Some people have even guilt associated with that deconstruction process. Totally. Yeah. Well, absolutely, man. Because the drives that those environments, kind of mechanize to exist, you know, if you consider them like a power structure, something, the drives that they're grabbing onto are the, like the belonging level. Like, do I belong to my group? Do I belong to people, you know, and
your tribe?
For me to leave this, I'm leaving my tribe. And we're set up like human beings for most time until the Enlightenment, basically, are set up that if you get excommunicated from your tribe, you die.
Right.
You know, we have so much evolutionary history that is encouraging that kind of that kind of response to being excommunicated from our group, you know, and it's only recently that it's like, well, just find a new tribe. Right. You know? I know. No big deal. You know,
it's not that easy.
Yeah. Well,
I can say that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's like no matter what, it's like you know, yes, one of the virtues of, you know, modern society, I think, you know, modern, like, approaching pluralist society is like, you can literally find your group of people, you know, you really can. And you don't even need the internet, man. Like you can be in a city the size of Kansas City and be like, where are the people who are into X, Y, Z, and go find it and
find them,
figure it out. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, you can find your tribe now, but that is a software upgrade, and we're existing with hardware that is that tribal hardware.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can do all the software upgrades you want, but it's still going to feel like a life-threatening situation when you leave everybody.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. I've definitely had some of that feeling just in the last 2 years, which I'm pretty late in life having that kind of feeling, but definitely can hear that, relate to that.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that was the beginning. So that's just the beginning of like, we're leaving fundamentalism. It's not like we were even deconstructing our faith, like
right.
in the large sense,
Yeah.
Or I wasn't mine. I was like, how do I make this work? How do I make it work?
Yeah.
Like, and I slowly get into more and more, maybe like open forms of, more and more open forms of mystical or spiritual pursuit. Definitely had a couple of stages in there where there was no pursuit whatsoever. But even all of that is still housed in the context of really going for what's true. Really looking for what's true.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning. We moved to Kansas City shortly after that. So my experience of moving to Kansas City as a teenager was in that leaving the core family group, core kind of tribe type of people, and kind of watching the letters or the emails pour in of like, my dad's like, oh, this person sent me an email, and it's like, we are no longer, it's like someone who was like cool with us, who we were at the same, camp as guest speaker / performer, whatever, for a couple weeks in the summer. And then they're like, we're no longer associated to each other. I don't want, whatever. And it's like, oh man, a bunch of those, you know what I mean? A bunch of those. And then, so that happened, moved to a slightly more open place in Kansas City, etc. And I guess the evolution from there is kind of a delta. It's just like we slowly, shifted out and away from it layer by layer,
Your whole family, really, in one way or another?
I would say largely, I would say that I would say everyone who is really interested in my family, who's really interested in finding out what's true, went through that process of kind of just leaving it, going out on their own. And then, there are like personalities in my family where it's like, for example, my sister right under me, I don't think once that was kind of gone, it was just kind of like, I don't really care about that stuff. I'm going to go do my life this way. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm deconstructing, whatever. That process, I think, was maybe for 4 or 5 of us, but not for all of us.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but all at the same time at varying speeds. You know what I mean? Let's just put it this way. So my dad was freaked out that I wanted to wear a necklace when I was, in that 14, 15 range. You know what I mean? Just freaked out. I had found this necklace that had like a guitar pick on it, which was perfect because I played the guitar. So it was like this perfect kind of, and it was just like a huge no, big time no, So that's me at 15. And then Jake at 15 is, taking a bong rip next to my dad on the couch, and my dad's like, man, I just don't get why you think that smells good. You know what I mean? I don't get like what you like about this or whatever, that was the level of kind of the speed at which it, became like open, or became like, I'll just say not rigid, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that it's virtuous at that level or not. I'm just saying the idea, to give an idea of scale of how quickly that can happen, and if you don't have a gradient in your worldview, then you have to explore every single thing that was on the other side, like that was on the dark side of that gradient once the worldview breaks. You know what I mean? So if you don't have any, so for me, luckily, my experience of experimenting with like drugs didn't take me to a place where I was like, oh, well, they told me that if I drank alcohol, then it would ruin my life pretty much immediately, and I would never be able to set it, like it would somehow take over and make me keep drinking it. Unequivocally, that would definitely happen. You know what I mean? And then, I drank a beer and nothing happened. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then everything on that side of the spectrum was like up for question. Yeah. So I'm super lucky that I barely had enough wits about me to be like, something about that doesn't see, it's like, I never tried something that was so alluring or, shall I say, like relieving, that I got stuck, in it. But it's like, man, so many people from my world end there. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
there was a movie that came out, I can't remember the title of it, but it was either like the Amish, the real conservative Amish.
The Rumspringa type stuff.
Where as soon as they get out, they give them a year.
Yeah, Rumspringa.
To go crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
And then decide themselves whether they want to go back into that community or not.
Yeah, which is kind of like a really, I've thought about
those
that
kids
too.
Go crazy, man.
It's like, do you have, could this thing, like, it's picking between hedonism and
an ultra structure, right?
And like, almost a, what would you call it? Like a monastic. It's like monasticism or hedonism, total. It's like
nothing in between.
Yeah, this will totally, as we were saying before, there are things that will really change this aperture for sensation. You can get that in the hedon. You can really blow that out in the hedonism side. Yeah. And also the some amount of pleasure is good for you, believe it or not. You know what I mean? It's like,
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Even from a Christian theology side, there are some people that go back to C.S. Lewis and other people who talk about, like there's a passage in Psalms that says, God says, in my right hand are pleasures evermore. So like Lewis would say, it's not that you're overly desiring pleasures. You just settle for the cheap pleasures. You need to go for the ultimate pleasure, so sure. So there are some people even in the Christian world who aren't anti-pleasure, which I always thought was a weird thing to think of. God made this whole world and then things are pleasurable, and then all those pleasurable things are evil. Like, how in the world does that work? Even things in our bodies like sexuality, all of a sudden all that's evil, right? If that's like, right, only if you're trying to have a kid can you actually enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all of a sudden it's like,
oops. So I totally agree. I think that, this is something I'm playing with. So this isn't something that I'm not setting this out there to defend it, but something that I've been looking at recently is, I think it's W.B. Yeats. Is that who it is? Yeah. W.B. Yeats. He said the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. He says the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. And this is I think that's kind of like the left-hand esoteric type path that says if you explore this aperture, to use that word again, I love that word for whatever consciousness is, but it's like, if you explore this, whatever's taking in the sensation far enough, you will get clear that it's not you. You'll get clear that you are not the sensation. You're not the pleasure. You are not the kind of you're not the screen on which the movie of life is happening. You're the movie, you know? But I think that left-hand path is, or I think that path is way more likely to end in pitfall. I think you can basically lose your way quicker on that side than on, say, the monastic side.
So Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament, it's the Hebrew word for the book is Kohelet, which I actually did a whole talk on it, you know. So it's Solomon decides he's going to pursue everything under the sun to try to figure out this world that we live in.
Right.
And in the end, he concludes that it's all vanity, but some people interpret that vanity word, it's the word hevel, it's the word for breath. And it's like anicca in the Buddhist tradition.
No way.
Yeah, because not everything that's vanity is negative.
Yeah, or even
like moment with your kid that you're having right now. You've got a 4-year-old, right?
4-month-old.
4-month-old. I'm sorry. Yeah, 4-month-old.
Yeah.
And like, there's probably some moments you wish you could just freeze and hold on to.
Totally.
But they're impermanent moments, and they're like breath. They're like vapor.
Which is not a value judgment on that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've never heard that from.
So Kohelet is basically saying, hey, like there's so many things in this world that are like breath.
Yeah.
But I've kind of like, oh, I like this. You know, that book is one of my favorites because of these concepts.
Yeah, totally. Or even if you hear a Zen practitioner talking about emptiness, is completely different than the emptiness that's over there is like the, it's the emptiness, like the fullness of everything minus the polarity of concepts. You know what I mean? And if you all concepts, they exist in these opposite kind of, you're either fulfilled or you're unfulfilled, or you have, positive one or negative one. And the empty is really the presence of all things minus the idea of them. It's like it's a God experience. It's like, so it's like there's I love rock climbing, mountaineering, all this. We could talk for hours about this stuff, but there's a book called Into the Void. It's about a rock climbing thing, and it deals with this theme of emptiness from a South American attempt to where a guy almost dies basically. But it's considered one of the classic outdoor type books that's ever been written. But it really actually Into the Void is Into the Void.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway. Yeah. So let me take us to a couple of your songs, because you started, you've been writing, I guess, for quite a while. And this song Born Again that you wrote in 2017, I love that song, and it's such a beautiful song. But then I love the song Water that you wrote.
Yeah.
Like, someone asked me what I believe in. I told him water.
That lyric is actually Jake. So Jake got that. Jake gets the credit for that lyric. I have to give it to him.
He was giving you credit for Born Again. Now
good. Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah, cool.
Circle of Life, great. The death and resurrection theme that's woven into the universe kind of thing is kind of what I think about.
Yeah, totally.
Some of I loved Indigo Sea.
Thanks.
I was wondering, was that a mushroom trip? And no, I don't know. No, it's like you're melting into another.
The melting.
Like person or existence or.
Yeah, so that one's like
that was interesting to me.
It's very mushroomy, but I don't think they were involved with the, at least directly, But yeah, that one is like, so that one follows life through these various. So when the sky opens up, I'm falling, that's kind of like the vapor that's in the clouds, and I'm speaking from that perspective. And then, in an indigo sea, I'm floating, you know what I mean? So that's like the becoming whatever's underneath, and so on and so forth, until it kind of goes through this embodiment into being like, I'm a soul that's out here, and I'm kind of romancing life a little bit, like I'm experiencing individuality and whatever, and then it goes back in, and then it kind of goes back into that, like I'm melting back into things. So it's just kind of like the emergence of something and then its convergence back. It's kind of what that song feels like for me.
Yeah. When you did Born Again, that those opening, they pray to your holy name. They worship your holy name. Yeah. And the style, I love the harmonies you guys do on that. The guitar works great.
Thanks.
Was it kind of like intentionally going back to a style that would reflect your previous life?
Yeah, like that's just how it came out. You know what I mean? Because it's from there. You know? So it's like, I remember I was like, I wrote that at a period where I had very little confidence in myself in terms of music. And so I wasn't like in a rush to put it out or anything like that. I was just like, this just came out, and I didn't know how to I don't know. I just didn't feel very confident. And I remember my family, we all got together and got this like beach house in South Carolina, and we went out there and spent a couple days on the beach together. And me and my siblings and my wife were out laying on the dock, like looking up at the stars, and my mom had brought her guitar. And so I just grabbed her guitar and I started playing it. And, I sang it, and my brother Josh, who's like probably, easily the most thoughtful of all of us in terms of like, he's just the most, he's just very down to earth, very thoughtful, very thoughtful guy. He was like, dude, that one's just ready. That one's ready. You don't need to do anything to that. You just need to do that. And
like it just came to you, like you pick a guitar up and it.
No, not like that. But like I just played it out there, and that was the first time somebody had said like, "Oh yeah, you'd worked on let the world have that." Yeah, I'd written it, but it's a real simple song. I had done with it what I wanted to do, and he was the one who was like, "Hey, you should let that out." Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that one came out as just straight from that place of like, it's in the style of that world, it's I would even suggest that it might even be palatable to that world,
I mean, I could see somebody, it's an interesting, beautiful though. So I'm curious, like in your own, like so you would still consider yourself a seeker of truth.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And
that hunger is a part of your makeup.
Definitely. Yeah. And I've tried to I've tried to at least be a little bit aware of like how much of this is a little kid who received a lot of hellfire and brimstone and is like, if I don't figure this shit out, then I'm doomed. There's a psychological aspect of it that's over there.
Okay.
But I think the older I get, the more I'm able to kind of notice that. Because that ends up really wanting concrete ideas to hold on to. Yeah. And I think the further you go into truth world, the less and less concrete things get. And so it's like, okay, I can experience kind of the difference between the psychological hunger for something to hold on to and that. But I would say that that it's both like kind of a personality feeture, and then like how I'm hooked up, and then also there's that piece to acknowledge too. That's like, okay, those are both present here. Yeah.
Two of my favorite words lately are paradox and mystery. But are you a reader?
I am.
So what do you like? What's some stuff that you are reading currently?
Yeah. The best book that I've ever read in terms of philosophy is like the one that has spoken to me to be the most robust map for reality that I've come across so far is a book called Sex, Ecology, Spirituality by a guy named Ken Wilber.
Oh yeah.
And he's kind of his brand of philosophy is referred to as integral theory. Integral theory. Yeah.
I'm reading Religion of Tomorrow, or Religion for Tomorrow.
Okay.
It's Ken Wilber. It's
okay.
It's his magnum opus. It's this thick.
Okay.
I mean, it's a monster.
Yeah. He is like a academic on another level. I think, you know, like truly a different dimension of academic.
I mean, when I say thick, I mean like dense. Like you gotta be committed.
Well, and here's the thing. Yeah, with that book, I fully recommend that book. I'd recommend it to anybody who's watching. And also, I would say that like if you get it and you read it, don't. I'm not trying to pretend like I understand everything in that book, you know, but what I do is I literally will read, 30, 40 pages at a time and sit with it for a while. Like I'll cook it and really think about it, and really, because what I've been able to do with this book, distinct from a lot of others, is kind of watch it graduate me a little bit, you know, or watch it flex my way of thinking over time. And I've been with that book for probably a year now.
Okay.
You know, and I'm close to the end now, but it's like it's truly transformed the way that I think, because I'm taking it slow and just not giving myself shit for what I don't understand, basically. Yeah,
he's a fascinating guy. He comes, his own tradition is Buddhism, but he tries to kind of like you have childhood development, and then you have like some of your psychologists have adult development, self-actualization, these different levels. But Ken kind of takes it into the religion world, and I'm not using religion in a bad way there, but
no, totally
talks about and tries to sort of integrate all these great traditions, and then look at and evolution as well, and he kind of meshes these together, and then looks at kind of like a spiritual development process that he talks about a lot. And I like the fact that he talks about the big chapters on the shadow work, the shadow self, and all that stuff.
Wilbur's stuff on shadow work is incredible. And honestly, I just kind of had the lights turn on for some of that stuff recently, where I was like, like really understanding what it might be like to disown a part of the self and then project it out, somewhere where it makes sense to project it out, but really like get a feel for that and be like, oh, like seeing ways that that's occurring, or seeing how in a lot of ways that is, that's a very common way for us as, people to operate with each other, is to kind of be living largely in a world of projection, if we haven't done that kind of work to say what is my shadow. Well,
good stuff. The song The Dreamer on you have an EP that you put out in 2019 called Boy, and The Dreamer seems to be like you're the dreamer, I'm assuming.
Totally.
And this part of you, it sounds like it kind of captures this sense of how, this journey that you're on.
Yeah, that's, and like
how somebody's maybe relating to you as that person, the dreamer. Like, are they going to accept you? Are they going to receive you? Are they going to? But anyway.
that whole EP, Indigo Sea was just kind of like a cool song that was relevant to me at that point. But most of that EP was I was like dealing with a lot of stuff around childhood wounds or trauma, or just pain in general, kind of like the pain of whatever my particular setup was. And so all those songs, Dreamer included, is like it's like a really young version of myself, like a kind of a young, hurt version of myself that I cooked into that song.
Loosen your hold. Can you make it stronger by loosening your hold? That one I wrote, that one's kind of like, that one's for Natalie, for sure. That was for my wife. And it was, I wrote that while I was falling in love with her.
And so the verses and stuff like that are like kind of this poetry about just watching how beautiful she is. And kind of the tone of the song is a little bit dark, a little bit like, a little bit, I don't know how to say it, but, maybe just like darkly romantic is kind of my take on it. You know, it's a little bit like, yearning. Is it great? Like kind of a, muted yearning maybe. And so, that song is just kind of from that place.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, like anytime we try to grasp something, it's too hard, you know?
Yeah. It's basically like, do I have my hands, do I have any control over this process that's happening of like me, loving this person, loving my wife, and can I make it go a certain way? Can I, get out of this, exactly what I want to get out of it, whatever.
Yeah. And if you hold on too hard, you can kill it.
Yeah, totally. It's like, chill out, man.
Like Steinbeck's novel of Mice and Men. That was kind of a theme of that.
Yeah,
it's like
totally.
If you hold it too hard, you can kill it,
Yeah.
At any rate, well, cool. Well, man, we could talk. This is so fun. I love it. So my thing is I can always geek out on philosophy and books, and I've been this way for my whole journey, really. And even with me going through my crisis, there's a thing they call post-traumatic growth, which if you stay, you can go through religious trauma or childhood trauma or whatever kind of thing. And for me, it was like a 3/4 life crisis, but you can grow out of these experiences, and it can be a new birth, and you can be born again.
Totally.
So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun stuff. So I appreciate the conversations and look forward to staying connected to you and Jake.
Same.
Look forward to doing an event with you guys even.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited for it.
So let's have you close us with a song on this podcast.
Okay.
And which one do you want to close us with?
Let's see here. I've been writing these really short songs lately, just like these really short one pieces. I think I'll do a song that's called Little Bird, and it's written for my son.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just tell people where they can find your stuff though.
Yeah. So
website or
totally. So I'm on Spotify. If you just search J.Taylor, I'm on there. I try to release new music, every few months. Now I'm in a good groove of releasing every few months, which is nice. So yeah, you can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, that stuff under J.Taylor. And then, I'm on socials at least a little bit, I'm
your Instagram there. Is
Jordan_Taylor_Thompson. Yeah, you can find me on there. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm on there. I'll post like the little songs, the little things that I'm writing, so and so. I'll do that on there. But
excellent. Yeah. So this one's called
Little Bird.
Little Bird.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Little bird, keep flying down. Little bird, keep flying down. And I don't know what it is you are, I don't, but I hope you keep singing. And I don't know who it is you are, I don't, but I hope you keep dreaming. All the lights, they carry us home. There's nothing to run from. All the lights, they carry us home. There's someone to lean on. There's someone to lean on. little bird, keep flying down. Little bird, keep flying down.
Right. Thank you, Jordan.
Absolutely.
And thank you for joining us at Spirituality Adventures. We'll see you next time. This concludes today's episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to like, share, or subscribe to the social media platform that you're using. And then go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, and make a one-time donation, or you can subscribe monthly and receive our special bonus content. Thanks so much.